Kino Flo is known for its fluorescent tube lighting, and now you do something else. Why?
Well, we're trying to keep pace with the 21st century. So the LED has come along, and it's now at a point where it can actually provide a quality of light that is the quality of light that we as Kino Flo want to represent. So by now understanding more about how the camera sees light, using the LED, we're able to actually construct spectrum very accurately, and now provide a product where you can render light from, say, 2,500 Kelvin all the way up to 10,000 Kelvin. We can generate colors. We can do all kinds of things and do them very efficiently using universal voltages anywhere from 90 to 240, or we can go battery power. So in terms of portability and things like that, the LED is a technology that lends itself very well to all those different types of formats.
So it means that LED gives you better possibilities than tubes.
The tubes gave us the first step in possibilities, which was lightweight, high color rendering, modularity, that we could hide it, and that was embraced by the industry very quickly, and it became a stable part of the industry. Now with the LED, we can build upon those advantages and provide much more in terms of color spectrum and things like that. The modularity, I think, will further be enhanced by this as well. So,
but how difficult can it be? You have a video camera making good pictures in daylight, and then you just have to put some light on it.
Yeah, if it was only so easy. So we see every new cinema camera as a new type of film stock. They're not all made the same. They can render good quality images, but the way in which they render them is going to be unique to their own operating system and the way they see color. So from a lighting perspective, if you're trying to construct spectrum, you really do need to have an understanding of what the camera perceives and how it perceives it. So now that we spent the time to study these cameras and actually analyze them, and we see there are differences, and I think the controls that we've incorporated into our lighting systems will allow you to make those minor adjustments that you might have to make. For instance, our Celeb line, the Select line, the Diva LED line, they're predicated on the Alexa color profile, which means if you take another cinema camera next to that, you may find some differences if it's looking at the same light source.
But isn't it just a question about the picture chip in the camera?
It's not just the chip, it's how it actually, how they've decided to break up the various elements within the spectrum, how each chip records that light. And so now that we understand it, we have enough sufficient controls in the light system that any operator should be able to make those minor adjustments themselves, save them on the unit, and render light that works for no matter what camera you're using.
Is it also a question about digital processing in the camera?
It's all digital processing. It's all zeros and ones, and it's how you order them, and everybody has their own way of doing it. Like I say, I think there are a lot of great cameras on the market. They're not all made the same for obvious reasons. There's competition, there's a desire to have certain characteristics, in them, just like a film stock was never the same. Fuji had its own look, Kodak had its own look, and you see that now in the electronic cinema camera as well. It's just the way it is.
How do you see the future?
I see it very bright. No, the future is really interesting. I mean, you have to really think about how this industry has evolved over the last 125, 150 years. And we are now at a point where almost anything is possible. When you consider the ability to shoot from 500 ISO to 2,000 to 3,000, and even beyond that, with as little noise as is now rendered on these images, it really opens up the world to seeing the world as the way our eye sees it. At the same time, it creates new challenges as well. So to me, I think we're in the most exciting period of imaging history when you consider everything has changed. The recording technology has changed, image delivery has changed, image storage has changed. Some of it not necessarily to the betterment. I mean, there's no archival medium. How do you archive all this stuff? Are we going to be able to see this 50 years from now?
Do you also see a world where pictures have never been better?
I've seen some amazing pictures in the past, and I've seen some amazing pictures now. I think it's sad that we're at a point where motion picture stock was at a pinnacle and was never really allowed to run its full course. I think it was snipped way too early. And what is interesting now, you have people like Chris Nolan, who is directing Dunkirk, shooting film and shooting IMAX, all film. And it's astounding how they've also determined that budgetarily, it's not a huge difference between electronic and film. Film means you have to be a little more disciplined. You're not just going to let the camera run. So that image quality, though, is superb. So I think there's room for both. Each has its own unique characteristics, and I just hope that film manages to survive this onslaught of electronics, and people think it's the notion of good enough. One has to be careful.
I also have a question about the LED quality, because I guess the best LEDs are those mass-produced, for example, for bicycles.
Yeah, well, just because there's a lot of them doesn't mean it's necessarily good. Again, we're taking the approach that once we understand what the camera sees, we now have to tailor the light to that. We have a long history of understanding motion picture film. We developed the lamps and the phosphor of the phosphor used in those lamps to render the highest quality. Now that we understand the electronic cinema camera, we see that there is room for improvement on mass-produced LEDs. Mass-produced LEDs are going more for lumens per watt efficiencies. Those are government dictates that have nothing to do with color rendering, nothing to do with how your skin tone looks. It has nothing to do with that. So for us, since we're in the imaging industry, what's really critical is how good does that skin tone look. You know, every cinematographer is only as good as the last picture they shot, so it better be good.
So your lamps are not a question about saving power?
No, I think that's sort of a natural byproduct. I mean, here's the joke about all this, you know. So 30 years ago, we started Kino Flo, fluorescent lights. Did anybody want to know about energy saving? Hell no. If anything, Jenny operators were upset when I came in with the Kino Flos because we had huge power plants outside pushing a lot of amperage, or capable of pushing a lot of amperage, and here we were running the equivalent of a coffee pot. They're going, what the hell are you doing? You're killing my generator. That we had to actually put a load bank on it. We would bring out maxi brutes and plug them in just so the generator had some work to do. In the meantime, we're running the entire set off one cord. And nobody said, oh, look at all the energy we're saving. No, it was a detriment. Now the world has changed. 30 years later, people are worried about energy. Been there, done that, still keep doing it.
So you want a green world with white quality light?
It's all about the quality of light. That's what we're all about. So energy is a side product. Great if we can deliver it, but that's not what drives us.